I think we just have probably like my generation especially, like we grew up with the wrong mentality, right, of like war was going to be for us. Like the day the invasion started, Bush comes on the TV or whatever and did the like, oh, we're doing the whole shock and awe thing, and I was out on a main gate. This dude who's another squad leader, Wrigley, he was like, I don't think Saddam can hit us with anything down here. Right when after we did changeover and I was walking away from the post, it hit like 75 or 100 yards away from that post. I saw the guys from the 4th platoon that was on my previous deployment with me. Like, them dudes just come rolling out of the desert. Hey, what are you guys up to? And like, dude, we're out, looking for a gunfight, right? Ever since that first deployment, I always want to do recon and Force Recon, like be a freaking team leader, like Force Recon team leader. Like, I'm gonna go back in and go to recon.
Well, Ryan Kuperus, you served 17 years in the Marine Corps and rise into the ranks of one of the most elite and specialized units in the U.S. military, Force Recon, the Marine Corps' deep reconnaissance and direct action force, tasked with missions that most units can't even attempt, eventually earning the title of Gunnery Sergeant. And over your career, you ran deep recon patrols and direct action raids across Iraq and Afghanistan, logging thousands of hours under the canopy and seeing combat in some of the most dangerous areas during the global war on terror. Since hanging up the rifle, you've continued your mission through the reason, where you've introduced fellow veterans to the healing power of hunting and helping them navigate the difficult transition back home. Welcome on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me.
I'm pumped for this one, man. And, that is obviously a very high-level view of everything, but your career is outstanding, man. And I got to say, one of the most consistent things I saw throughout your entire story is you can tell how much you care about the guys around you. And not to say that's rare, but, we'll get into this later too, especially some of the higher-ups they neglect that. And it's just, having that type of team and leadership is really special. And again, I love what you're doing with your mission, continuing forward with the reason. I think so many guys I've had on the show have talked about the difficulty coming home. And I think, looking for ways to make that transition better is critical. So again, love everything you're doing.
Thank you.
So let's jump into your background a little bit, man. So where'd you grow up? And I know you were upstate New York. And
yeah, I was actually born in northern New Jersey, up in Sussex. Moved to upstate New York when I was 5 and grew up on a farm up there. I have to say upstate New York because if I just say New York, people assume, the district of New York City.
Yeah.
And the rest of the state is very different from that. So.
I was just having that conversation last night. Can't compare like Albany to New York City.
No, you definitely can't. Yeah, so grew up there until I was 17 and joined the Marine Corps.
What was the childhood like the area and everything as well?
So growing up on a farm, grew up out in the boondocks, really. Mm-hmm. Still played sports, lacrosse, basketball, football. And so, it was like wake up, work, go to school, practice, do some more work sometimes. Summertime would be throw hay bales and then do double sessions football.
Yeah.
So, we're always in good shape around there.
Yeah.
But, that was good. Hard work and but rewarding.
Were the sports big growing up? Like, did you enjoy kind of the team camaraderie and everything?
Yeah. Our town's known for basketball. So, everybody growing up wanted to be on the basketball team. Basketball is more my stay in shape sport. Football and lacrosse is what I excelled at.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think my mom, wanted us out of the house anyways. I mean, we'd either be in the barn or playing sports. So it was like, hey, I'm playing sports anyway, so I can take a couple hours of my day not doing chores, milking cows, and that kind of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, the team aspect of it, and always wanting to be right, the best at whatever sport we're playing. So we're pretty competitive in my house, me and my brothers. So.
Did you have any kind of military aspirations when you were younger? Was there anything in your head around that, growing up?
I knew my grandfather was in the Korean War. my dad's dad, and my mom's dad. He was in the Coast Guard. I always figured when I was a kid that I was going to be a farmer. But I always kind of, like, you grew up watching military movies, Rambo, Saving Private Ryan, like all that stuff. And I think every kid at some point wants to be in the military, or at least they pretend they do, playing and all that. So I think it was always kind of there. My grandfather didn't really talk much about Korea. He did to me a little bit after I came back from Iraq. But it wasn't, being a farmer, I think, was like number one when I was a little kid, and then the military maybe number two. And then as I started getting older, I knew like going to college right out of high school is not going to be it for me because discipline wasn't going to be there to, study. I would have flunked out. My dad asked me to go into business with him, right, if I wanted to, be a farmer with him. And I said no. Hard but rewarding work. I think the price of milk then was like lower than when my dad was a kid. So like not a lot of opportunity to make money. There's always the debt to income ratio that goes on with being a farmer. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So then I started thinking seriously about the military.
Let me ask, you said this on Urban Value when you were talking about, you say, sometimes I kind of look back on that decision and you're like, kind of like with that what if. I mean, do you ever think about that as well, if you had just kind of gone the farming path? And
Yeah, I do. So after my first 4 years the Marine Corps, I got out for a little while and went to college and did the reserves. And from the time I got out, which was like, I was on terminal leave, so like June of 2004 maybe, and I moved back home and worked on a friend of ours' farm for like a month and a half. Maybe like in hindsight, it was probably a good idea to do that, right? Because it was like a decompression time for me, and it was like, can I still do all these things? Like we were baling hay and I was milking cows and all that stuff, and it was, I enjoyed it, But again, like it was do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Like I don't half-ass anything, so I knew, like I even knew if me and my dad went in the business, right, we would had to put in a parlor, put in a different system to milk the cows, milk more cows, and expand like a lot, and it would cost a lot of money. And then when I was milking cows, when I got out for a while, I was just, like it was nice to do it one more time. I think maybe that was it.
Yeah.
It was nice to do it one more time. But again, to make a living that way, like super rewarding, but not, it's a lot of work and it's just not what I wanted to do. So
you're saying kind of, that's kind of when your mindset started looking towards joining the military. So I guess when did that conversation start and kind of what did the first approach look like?
I think when my dad, he was like, what are you going to do? After I told him no, I was like, join the military. And in my mind, then it was the Army. It was kind of like, yeah, I'll just join the Army type thing. And didn't really do a lot of research on, I was like, Army Ranger, that would be cool. Let's talk to the Army recruiter. Like there was no like, a lot of guys will talk about how they like researched like the branches of military, or they always want to be this or that, and for me, it was like, let's talk to the Army recruiter.
I feel like what's funny, so many guys that I know, especially it's even some of the guys that get in some of the elite teams and stuff, like a lot of times it's kind of how it is. It's like, yeah, I just kind of showed up and, the path laid itself.
Yeah. Like the reason why me and my best friend, we didn't go in the Army because the Army recruiter was super pushy. Right? He's like, I'll get you the MEPS tomorrow. Right? We'll get you sworn in. Like, you guys want to do it? Like, and we're like, whoa, man, chill out, dude. Like, we're having the first conversation here, and this dude's like trying to, shuffle us out the door, and we're like, no. So, then the Marine recruiter was at school, and we're like, let's talk to these guys. And they were, like, you don't know back then that your recruiter's like motor T, right, or aircraft mechanic, right? You just know, like, hey, look, these guys have to be infantrymen, right? Like, you know,
You got the uniform.
right? They got the uniform, right? Uniforms are cool, right? I mean, Army's uniforms, they're better now than they were, right? But you're like just thinking like, oh, these guys got to be infantry. Like, you don't not thinking about all the other, you know, jobs that there may be. And the Marine recruiters were super cool, and we're like, yep, sign us up. Then we were like, yeah, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. So
you signed up with your best friend as well. He was joining in.
Yeah.
Was that kind of a good, like, was that a kind of a more kind of comfortable feeling in terms of like you guys were going in this together and everything, you know, for approaching military as a career?
Yeah. So me and my best friend did the buddy system. Another good friend of ours joined and was in our platoon in boot camp too. It was a good feeling, right? Because you know a couple guys, and you would think, right, that we're in the same platoon in boot camp, whatever, that we like would get to see each other, talk to each other every day, but you know that don't happen. You know, that doesn't happen at all. But comforting to know that friends are there. And we actually had a couple other guys that were poolies with us that we were pretty good friends with. They turned out to be terrible Marines, but it's no big deal. But yeah, it was like, you know, when you know some guys, right, you know, like, you know, the team is like there, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean? So that was always
They're all
nice.
going through the same shit together.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah. Right. Like when we get back, you know, and we get to tell stories about this, like, you know, you know that the same guys were there suffering.
Yeah, they
too.
know what's up.
Yeah, they were suffering.
So you joined in at 17, right?
Yeah.
And then went to boot camp.
Yeah.
How was their experience?
So honestly, like, not probably as terrible for me as for like some of the other people. Like I was used to waking up early. Used to walking around in boots because like that's like the big, you know, thing that they like stress, like, oh, you know, people aren't used to wearing boots and they get stress fractures and all that, right? Like your biggest fear is getting injured in boot camp and like not leaving the island. You know what I mean? Like that's your, like, I don't know. Yeah, they just like put that in your brain from like day one, you know? You're like, there's only one way off the island by like graduating, right? Like you see dudes in like the medical rehab platoon and they just like look forlorn, you know, like, you know, they look terrible. You're like, no, that's not ever going to be
I
me.
don't want to be that.
Yeah. So it wasn't that bad. But there was stuff that, you know, definitely sucked. I ended up being one of the squad leaders. So like, you know, you're just front and center all the time. And I'm a pretty big dude. So I'm like, I'm ripe for like a good old fashioned thrashing for, you know, some perceived slight, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But it just like, probably the worst thing was just long periods of silence, right? Just standing there, position of attention, and just like looking at the wall, right? Not moving, right? Because, you know, like you're like, if I move, I'm going to get caught and then I'm going to get thrashed, you know? So that was probably the worst part of it. And then just like, they always, like the Marine Corps does this like really good job at making you like scared of something that you shouldn't be scared of, right? Like trying to stress you out. Or like, you know, you got like this, like a test, like the Marine Corps history test, right? Like if you fail, you're going to get recycled. Like you're going back to like training day, whatever, you know, like your PT test, your obstacle course, whatever it is, right? They're like making it that's like, you know, you're don't fail, you're going to get rolled back, you know, like, and you're like, don't want that to happen, you know? So that's probably the worst thing.
Did you have any, like, what would you say the funniest experience you've had in boot camp? Because I've heard some just
The
absurd
funniest
stories.
experience. The funniest experience. So maybe not. So one of the funniest experiences is being out at the rifle range. And like, so when they pack you up, right, like you carry all your stuff from your barracks over on the main part of Paris Island, you walk out to the frickin', you know, weapons training battalion, whatever. And we got out there, put all our stuff up, and then like went to chow or whatever. And when we came back, every single, right. And by the way, like when you go to chow there, right, so they give you a box of this like Jimmy Dean box lunch, okay, and you're all excited because there's like 2 sandwiches in there. There's Oreos, right? There's probably an apple, some chips, right? And you're like, heck, this is like better than going to chow hall, because in the chow hall, it's like one scoop, right? You like start eating, the drill instructor's like, get out, right? So like I came out of boot camp like 205 pounds looking like a Holocaust victim, like skinny, like eyes out of my eye sockets and all that, like 205. I'm like 250 pounds right now. But like you get these little sandwiches and they're like, all right, open your sandwiches up. Like take your lunch meat, throw it behind your head, right? They're like, put mustard on your bread. Put the mustard on the bread, right? Like, all right, open up your Oreos. Put Oreos on your sandwich, right? Take a bite of your sandwich. Boom, take a bite of the sandwich. Like, throw the sandwich behind you. You're like, wham, right? And you're like, and they're like, oh, grab your apple, right? Because you need fruit, right? Take one bite of your apple, throw it behind you. All right, collect up the chows. Like, you're done. That's it. You know, so like this wonderful box lunch that you thought you were gonna get, right? It just devolves into this, you know, shitty Oreo mustard wheat bread sandwich, and you get one bite of it too, by the way, which is, you know, still delicious for being terrible, you know. Yeah, so that was lunch. You go back to the barracks, and every rack is flipped upside down. Every wall locker, everything is just piled up. Everyone's stuff's just piled up in the middle of the highway, and they're like, hey, you got 15 minutes to unfuck this squad bay. Because somebody left a lock open, right? Like somebody's, well, you know, probably a couple guys, little foot lockers were open, and that's like, you know, cardinal sin, don't do that, right? And so everything was dumped out in the middle of and we had 15 minutes to unfuck it, which we didn't get done.
Yeah, not even close.
Right? Like, so, yeah, like stuff like that would happen. And at the time, like, it stresses you out. Right, but, you know, like, I was used to being yelled at by coaches. I was used to be yelled at by my mom, right? So, like, all that stuff wasn't that bad. But, like, you don't realize I turned 18 in boot camp as an 18-year-old, right, that, like, the timelines these dudes put on you are impossible to make. Right? They're not meant to be, the timelines are never meant to be made. You know what I mean? But you don't know that, right? So it's just, like, part of the madness. But shoot, probably the other funniest thing is just when they had all the drug pops up on the quarterdeck, and the dudes asked for they asked drill instructors for their packages that their parents had sent. So, like, people know, right? I mean, this is like, I don't think there's anybody in America who knows that you, like people know, don't send snacks to boot camp. Like, don't do that to your kid, right? But inevitably, people do it anyways, right? Or like try to smuggle it in. It's like drill instructors got big old foot lockers of like Oreos, chips, like all kinds of bull crap, right? And they had the drug pops up there because they're like, oh, and one of them was our guide from our class. Like, so like, you have your 4 squad leaders, and you have like the guide, right? That carries like the little guide on, you know? And so our guide actually popped on the piss test, right? So that was like, drill instructors like, oh, good to go, right? The guide popped on the piss test, right? Like, dude, like this huge helmet fire, right? Which, like, thinking back now, it's just, those dudes are bored, man. Like, I can't blame them for just being like that, just off the freaking deep end, right? Just yelling about stuff because, right? Like, what else are you gonna do?
It's part of the fun of it,
right? Like, you got to have fun with your job. You know what I mean? Because like you'd hear them laughing in their little drill instructor hooch all the time, and they just had to have been laughing. You're like, oh my gosh, they're about to come out and F us up, man. Like we did something wrong. That's why they're laughing. But they're just probably in there laughing because some recruit did something stupid. Yeah, But yeah, so these dudes asked. They're like, oh, hey, sir, can these recruits get their stuff their parents sent them, right? And they're like, oh, good, now we're selfish too, right? It's like put all this stuff in a pile. They were dumping water, spit and dip, spit in it, and smash it with their jungle boots. And they're like, get on your hands and knees and eat it, pigs, right? And they were on their hands and knees eating that stuff, and I was like, ooh, man, that's right? Like, well, good thing that's not me. Yeah.
So the dudes at Pop, what is like the drug policy and everything? Like, do you get like a certain amount of? I mean, obviously, at certain levels, we're talking about, I'm sure steroids and stuff. Like, do you get a certain amount of time to get clean or going in? Because I'm sure dudes are doing it before cycling, coming into camp, like whatever.
Hey, you know what? Good question. I don't think I knew anybody. Actually, one guy I think I would say may have done steroids before he came in, and he was in my platoon in boot camp, but we're in the same platoon, the School of Infantry, and he ended up going to Recon right out of SOI. I would say he's the only dude that probably did roids before he came in, but they don't test you for that. It's like, weed, coke, all that stuff.
Oh, so if you're on site, you're not getting tested for that. It's just kind of like
no. That's I mean, like even when like farther in your career, like if you like, I knew dudes that they were like, that dude's taking steroids, right? So they would test it, but the tests are more expensive allegedly, and like I ended up having to do urinalysis coordinator for a while when I was in the grunts. So like when you go through the little course, they like tell you like, oh, we can't take boxes of, right, if the seals are broken or this or that, right? So like tell you how to defeat the freaking thing if you wanted to. But it's a whole different ball of wax for steroids. But like there are dudes who just got ridiculously jacked, right? All of a sudden, you know, and they're like, you're doing roids, man. Like go get tested.
Bicep gets biceps. They're able to just run for miles.
Right.
Yeah.
Which like in combat arms, right, you should, I mean, not saying like roid out, right? But like there should be
just about
a human performance, right? We'll call it regimen if you choose to use it, right? Whether that's HGH, peptides, TRT therapy, all that stuff. Making sure that dudes' levels are healthy is like, and that like, I'm not talking about like roid cycles, but guys being able to stay healthy. They should definitely do that 100%.
Well, because like even when we're talking about, and I know like the pseudo speed that they have where you guys were taking.
Yeah,
like that
Provigil, which now after hearing everyone's like, hey, that's not actually speed, right? But like I'm like, hey, look, I'm just saying what I was told. Do I look like a doctor? Do I look like a a SARC, SOIDC? No, I'm not any of those things. I was told that this is what it is, right? I now know for all of you out there, right, that Provigil is not legal speed. Got it. Noted, right?
I mean, it's damn close. Though.
But there is a ton of freaking people that are like, look, anytime I take that stuff, I almost blow mud all over the place too, right? So there's plenty of people that are all over the spectrum. Hey, look, my, like I got IBS and all that stuff, right? Freaking, and I got dysentery when I was in Afghanistan, so. Like my system's a little sensitive, right? That's what that thing does for me. Now I know, right? If I take one, right, stand by, give it 10 minutes, and go blow mud, and we'll be good to go for the rest of the day.
We're gonna get to that story because I don't want to tease people too much already, but because it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, like thinking of that, if you guys are able to take that, I mean, I would think when you guys are also out in the field for days at a time, little sleep and all that fucks with your testosterone too, like naturally.
Yeah,
so I think you'd have some type of like injections, pills, whatever they look to take to kind of keep you guys at those levels so that you're moving at the highest you possibly can be.
Yeah, when I got my levels tested before I retired, I had like 80-year-old man testosterone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what are we gonna do? They're like, oh, we'll watch it. We'll give 1 more month, come back in, right, and we'll monitor it. I came back in, it was like 2 pegs above where it was, and the doctor, she was actually on my last deployment on the MEU. She was like, oh, we're going to continue to monitor. I'm like, give me a referral out in town, right? Like, I want to get this fixed, So I did that and started taking testosterone. Felt like within a week, I felt like a new man, And now I do my work with Atlantic TRT, and like, so I've got all the, support stuff too. So that like night and day difference. And a lot of guys even, there's even guys that were not military. I got a couple of friends that started doing like they found out they were low and they're like, dude, they feel like a new man, But for a lot of military guys, it happens at a really, really young age. And that's just from stress, explosions, right? All that stuff, You stay awake for 3-4 days in a row, like only taking cat naps, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Like that just, it's going to frazzle.
That's what I'm surprised because I feel like, again, like at some level, you think they'd always be getting guys, especially when you're back at, base, whatever, you guys do some type of thing that gets you back to those normal levels. Because that, just with everything, like combat availability, being able to get out, leaving, transitioning, like I'm sure that's a lot of the stuff that's going on too. Like I had Marcus Capone on, and he was talking about kind of the PTSD or TBI or all that, and like how that fucks around with your chemicals and everything as well. And it's like if you're doing it early on, it makes a massive difference versus all that compounding that kind of happens, Yeah,
100%. And I think now it's getting more acceptable. Where, especially because they just removed like the black box label or whatever, right, from testosterone, right? So it's not, but it's going to still take, another 10 years to, make it not the boogeyman that all the doctors currently think that it is, right? When, science proves that it helps people, from the military side of things, it's starting to become more acceptable, because if you're low, right, like that's just part of being healthy. Right, so guys are getting tested more and more now, right? It's whether they can, whether they have good doctors or not, right? Or if they're going to play we'll just monitor it, right, game, or, right, guys will go and, see guys like Jason, and he gets them squared away. I mean, it's becoming more acceptable, but, like, they can do better, right? Like, military medicine is always a little touch and go at times, depending on what unit you're with, right? Depending on what base you're at, et cetera, right? They're just trying to do their best, bless their hearts, but sometimes it's a little dodgy, So,
so jumping forward, I mean, it was towards the end of boot camp, right, where 9/11 first happened.
That was that. I actually had been in the fleet for about a year.
You moved in?
Almost, yeah.
So what do you remember about that day, and how do you think, the idea of everything kind of changing?
So we were at Fort Bragg doing a training, like our battalion was, before we chopped to the MEU, as in started our MEU train up. And we were doing a trench clearing range that day. And so, like, when you do a range, you can't do, like, blank and live fire on the same day. Or I said the day before, we had done this range with blanks. This day we're, like, doing it live. So you do, like, a dry run with no ammo, and then we do a live run. So we're getting ready to do our live run. We'd already done a dry run. And the Humvee driver had, a radio in the Humvee. And then he was like, "You guys need to come hear this. Someone just ran a plane into one of the towers." We're like, "What?" Like, "Hey, let's go run this range." Like, halfway into running this range, they called the range cold, and then the dude was like, "Yeah, they ran 2 planes in the Twin Towers." And then when we got back to our, like, battalion area, there was, like, we were, like, hunkered down, like, battalion fighting position style, because, like, nobody knew what was going on, right? Like, are we under attack? Like, and we're out in the middle of the frickin' Fort Bragg. So, so there's not, like, there's TVs and any of that around, and it's 2001, so nobody's got frickin' iPhones, Now, if, like, something like that happened, everyone's going to know, like, immediately, and it's going to be streaming everywhere.
Now you don't even know if it's AI or something.
Right, yeah. No kidding, right? Yeah. Skynet is aware. But so, like, we didn't know what the heck's going on, and right, like, now it seems like ridiculous. Like, dude, we're in the middle of Fort Bragg. Like, they're not running freaking kamikaze planes in the all the bases on the East Coast or whatever. But good practice, anyways, I suppose. But yeah, like, now it just seems ridiculous. But we're like, everything is gonna change now, right? Like, we are getting ready to start to work up for this deployment. Like, we're next in the chute. Whatever just happened, like, we're going. Something's going to happen, and we hope that we get to be involved in it. So you start looking at things a whole lot differently, right? Because we joined pre-war, like, me and my buddies, and right, like, we're like, if we're going to get to kill somebody, right, it's going to be with the Marines, right? Like, it's gotta be right. Like I didn't know, like literally, I didn't know anything about like the military, right? Like I knew Rambo was a Green Beret, but I didn't know what the friggin' Green Berets, really did, right? I know what the SEALs really did. I know what Marine Recon really did, So like, but and we're training for war, right? And like I got to like very early on, I had good squad leaders and I did super squads. So like I got a lot of pretty intense, like training, right? Like all the ins and out of the Marine Rifle Squad and all that stuff. And, like right then at that time, like just wanted to be the best infantryman you can be. But now you're like, all right, this is going to happen like for real. Like in 6 months after we're done with this workup, like we could be going to war. Right. And then like you saw everything start, like guys were going into Afghanistan. Right. So we're like, all right, we're next in the chute. Like we're definitely going to be like, we're going to get some, you know what I mean? So it was, I don't know, like, I think, the parents and grandparents, right? They're like way more worried than we were because we're like young and full of piss and wind. Like this is what we joined the Marines to do, right? Yeah. Like let's go get revenge, right, for these people because, like my uncles and my grandfather, they worked in New York City. I got family right around there, so like, this was like freaking big. This was like, we hadn't been attacked like that since Pearl Harbor, So
how quickly did they communicate to you guys, the idea of it being with Osama bin Laden, like the connections that were there? Like, were you guys learning kind of who was behind it relatively quick?
I mean, I think we pretty much learned it as fast as like the American public, I guess. Like me being a lowly infantryman, like E3 Lance Corporal, right, in a rifle squad, like I'm the last to get information. You know what I mean? Yeah. But for that workup, my platoon was part of the Maritime Special Purpose Force, so we were the security element for the Force Recon platoons. Like those dudes, like got information, you know what I mean, that we didn't get, obviously. But like it was like we found out, all the big, Blue Arrow stuff, right? Like same way that everybody else did via the news. Like we didn't get any special briefs or anything like that. But, we're like getting closer, getting closer. Like, and hopefully we get to go get in on the action, So
what was that first deployment like?
Oh man, we set a record for most consecutive days on ship since World War II.
Good stuff.
So yeah, so like obviously like right, gonna go on a first deployment, like exciting, still being the new guy in the infantry, right? Where they call us, we're the boots, right? Like if you ever want to insult a Marine, right, you just call them a boot, right? And they're instantly gonna get mad.
FMG,
yeah. So like they're gonna get upset, right? Even though everyone's a boot to someone, right? Everybody should understand that. But so like we get being the new guy, you get told where to sleep, and you're in a berthing with a bunch of guys who'd already done a deployment, right? So you're just like, you're the low man on the totem pole. You got to clean the berthing all the time, right? All that stuff. But it just, like ship life is boring. Like wake up, eat breakfast, go to the gym, do some training, watch movies, read books, like wash, rinse, repeat, and it's, when I did a deployment in Force Recon on the MEU, it was way better than when I was in the grunts because we had more privileges, you know what I mean? But my deployment in the grunts was like one day our whole squad ended up cleaning the engine room because we upset our platoon sergeant for I have no idea what, I don't remember, but I just know that even our squad leader and the team leaders were down there in the engine room, cleaning the engine room with us, which is like 120 20, 30 degrees, right? There's like one AC vent in there and it blows out, but that's as far as the AC goes, you know? So, right, we had to, you know, fix ourselves apparently. So we never ended up down there again, thankfully. I ended up having to do, they call it jack of dust, right? So you bring up all the, like stores for the day, right? Like the yogurt, you know, food, all the food comes up this elevator, right? So I had to do that because I got mouthy with my squad leader one time. So they're like, we're going to hook you up. And usually when they said they're going to hook me up, it meant I had to go on a working party. So for like 2 weeks, I'm down there doing like this jack of dust thing, but it was awesome because I learned how to break into all the coolers. I knew where all like, you know, where the ice cream was kept, the freaking yogurts, like all the stuff that I could like get out of there, you know, onesies and twosies and have some extra chow. Right, I knew how to get it all, you know. And then like 2 weeks was up, and they're like, "All right, you're done." I was like, "No, can I do another 2 weeks?" And they're like, "Why would you like request another 2 weeks?" You know. I'm like, "No," but like I made friends with the guys in the bake shop, so I get cookies. My platoon sergeant's like, "Hey, do you think you can bring me up a cookie?" I'm like, "Oh no, this is all they had," you know. Right? It's like, you know, you sent me on this detail, you know, and so now, right now, you want a cookie from me, you know. Like, no, man, sorry, these are the only cookies we have. Like, give them to my buddies. But, yeah, so, like, you know, it's boring. And then there's what we call the Lance Corporal Underground, right? For some reason, the Lance Corporal's like, there's certain guys that are just good at getting information, right? And, you know, so, like, there's always rumors, right? Like, we're going to CENTCOM, right? We're going to go into Afghanistan. We're going to do this or we're going to do that, you know? And then, like, being part of the Maritime Special Purpose Force, we're like, all right, if somebody's going to go do something, it's going to be us. Like, if Force Recon goes and does it, we're the security element, so we're probably going with them, you know? And then, like, you know, so, like, there's always just the Lance Corporal on the ground and rumors. But, you know, my one buddy, Stanley, like, somehow that dude, like, would have a rumor that would come out to be true every time. And, like, on that deployment, we went to Djibouti, trained there. We went to Oman, to Masira. And actually, we were like QRF for dudes doing stuff in Afghanistan. And we did stand up and stand down a couple times for like missions that we didn't end up going on, unfortunately. But like main thing we did in Masira was build floors and doors for the tents for the Air Force. That and stand up, stand down for missions. So like even like one of my best friends was in that Force Recon platoon, right? And he's like, Basira, floors and doors. Right? I'm like, yeah, man, floors and doors. You know, so it was like stand up and stand down for like the QRF missions. You know, we were in what they call Mod Lock in the Red Sea for like 140 days, 145 days or something like that. So like every like 30 days, if you haven't been to port, like you have like a beer day, you know, and we did like 3 of those things. Like I think it was like 140 days, I swear, or something like that. But we did like 3 or 4 like beer days, and like they bring grills up on the flight deck and grill out and all that stuff. Or one time they like picked a freaking island somewhere and with a beach on it and like had a beach day. But like we did not get off the boats for that long.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was like some record since World War II or whatever, right? But like, you know, so like when it's that, you're like, man, we're here. Obviously, we're not getting off the boat for a reason. Yeah. You know, but again, like you stand up, you stand down, and it's just like you get all happy. You're gonna go do something. Then you didn't.
I was gonna say, like, what was the feeling too? Because I mean, obviously at this point, that's kind of when stuff was starting to kick off, and like you guys were just talking about as well. You know, everyone post 9/11 was like, we're going to war. Like this is, you know, getting ready to go.
Yeah, I don't think any of us. You know, because initially it was a pretty small footprint in Afghanistan, right? We all wish that it had been a bigger footprint, obviously. You know, and it was like, man, you know, it was a huge disappointment, right? Like we did, you know, what we were told and whatever, but like, you know, we were out there and we didn't get to go, right, have a firefight with anybody, right? We didn't get to go get some, right? And that sucked, you know, and it was a pretty freaking long deployment. And, you know, you're like, well, that one was a bust, you know, and then a couple months later, we ended up going to the invasion. So that was good. But yeah, first deployment, like it was just, like ship life. Like how do you stay on, in shape on ship, right? Doing like, right, like just occupying yourself is the hardest thing, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we did go to Turkey. So we went to Turkey, and I thought me and my best friend again, right? We thought that we were about to be a freaking statistic there. So on the way back, we hit a couple of ports. One of them was Turkey. I think we went to Crete. That might have been on the way in, but we didn't go to a lot of ports on that deployment. Moral of the story, but we went to Turkey, and they do all these freaking MWR, morale, welfare, recreation. They do all these tours, right? So it's like, go do a Turkish bath, go watch carpet making, like all this stuff. But like at this point in the deployment, we're like, man, I'm not going on no freaking MWR tour. Like I'm on the boat with these dudes 24/7. I got to wait in the chow line with them. Like I no, you know what I mean? Like I don't want to have anything to do with it. Not understanding, right, at that young age, being full of piss and vinegar, right, that like the tours are way cheaper than going to do it on your own. And like, they set these things up for a freaking reason because they vet the people that they do stuff with. Mm-hmm. We found some random Turkish dude named Fred, right? Clearly not his Turkish name, right? But that's what we called him, Fred. And he's like, oh yeah, dude, you guys want to do a Turkish bath? Meet me back here tomorrow. This is how much money you need. We're like, all right, cool. Right, so we meet Fred back there the next day and get in the van. And also in the van, we're like, figure that we're just going somewhere in the city, right? And we're in Marmaris. And also we start going out of the city. We start going up in the mountains. And I'm like, yo, this is what briefs are made of. You know what I'm saying? Like this is statistic shit right here, man. Right? I'm like, yo, I'm looking at him, like, point to my knife. I'm like, you got your pocket knife? He's like, yeah, I got it. I'm like, dude, like, I think we're going to be like, we're going to start hearing some Allah Akbar shit, and they're going to start trying to cut our heads off or something, man. Like, we're about to be on a video here, right? We're going up in the mountain, up, right? I'm like, dude, not good. I was like getting a little stressed out about it too. I'm like, fuck, right? Like, I'm starting to think of like what we got to do to get out of this little jam that we're in here and trying to remember where we're driving to, And then we hit the top of the mountain and we start going down. There's a whole little port in this cove, little town down there. And we started going down into the town. I'm like, and we pulled up to a bathhouse. I was like, dude, what a terrible idea that was. What a terrible idea that was, Like, I was like, oh my gosh, man, like, this is what they have briefs about, right? Like, this exact scenario. We're leaving the city. Like, we're going up into the mountains. Like, there's no cell phones, Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we had a nice Turkish bath that day. Yeah, and we weren't a statistic, obviously.
Yeah, made it home.
Yeah, and we made it back, right? Fred turned out to be a good dude. We tipped him well. Not quite as shady as we're thinking then, But, so that port was all right. But, like, when you know there's a war going on, like, there's like, hey, right, it's such a big event like 9/11, like, all you want to do is get into the fray, like, as a infantryman, and even guys who are not like that, like, because there's a bunch of dudes who, a good friend of mine, he's like, I went in so I could get college benefits. That's the only reason why I went in the Marine Corps. I didn't want to go to combat. And here I am, I was in artillery, and there he is in the middle of Iraq, like guys like, because there was guys like that at the time, so those dudes are like, oh crap, like this might actually like happen. You know what I mean? Like there had been a big conflict, big conflicts since Somalia or Desert Storm, and even those weren't what we ended up getting into. You know what I mean? So, just it kind of just, and then like people when you get home, they're like, "How was the war?" And you're like, "I didn't go to war. Like we just sat on ship." You're like, "Dang it, man!" Like dang it. So that's kind of how I felt about that.
What was your first exposure, though, to Force Recon, right?
Yeah.
So what was your kind of view of them at that point as well, getting to really experience them for the first time and also kind of understanding what their kind of op tempo and everything they were doing as well?
So those guys, my buddy Craig actually put it like perfectly at his retirement. He said I was the first guy to treat him like a human being since he went in the Marine Corps. right? I think that is probably the perfect analogy for those guys. They're the first dudes that treated me. So in our platoon, right, we're the security element for those guys, but there's one squad that were the trailers. So we went to the house. We went to the target with them, did security, the sensitive site exploitation, or whatever they needed us to do, right? And on that squad, there was me and my buddy. We're the two junior guys, like two of the most junior guys in the platoon. And Force Recon guys treated us like humans, right? Like, they didn't tell us we're boot. They didn't tell us like, oh, hey, boot, get over here, right? Like, we're always like address them by their rank and stuff like that. But they're like, oh, you can call us by our first names if you want, like whatever. I'm like, I ain't doing that, But I mean, like, so a couple of the guys we did, and other ones like their team leaders, you definitely would not do that. But they were super professional, super cool. Taught us a lot. They were like always willing. Like we could go over to their berthing, ask them questions. Right, they would train us. Right, and just super professional. Right, and this is 2002. Right, so I'm shooting a M16 A2 rifle with a hose mag light, big mag light, hose clamp to it. Right, that's what we had for lights for like clearing houses. Right, like Force Recon dudes had M4s with aim points on them. Right, some of them anyway. Some of them just had M4s with iron sights. Right, but these dudes got M4s. Right, they all got night vision. Like for us, before we got to the MEU. Like we had like 2 night visions for the whole squad. Now we're talking about PVS 14s, not the 7 Bravos, like the state of the art stuff back then. And like those dudes got to wear flight suits every day, and right, like pretty much got to do what they wanted to do on the boat, right? But I mean, they were super professional guys, and so I was like, man, like I need to quit being in the grunts, and I need to go do that, right? Because that's way better than what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like those dudes got some respect. You know what I mean? They got some clout. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just what they did sounded. I mean, just like that's what I joined the Marine Corps to do. So like after that deployment, I went to go like take the selection, right? And they're like, hey. If you want to come to, if you want to go to Force Recon, you got to extend for 2 years. And I was like, F that noise. I'm not doing that. Right. Like, it's weird. Like, Marines aren't happy unless they're like bitching and whining. Right. But if you have like some bad leaders can be the sole reason that Marines like get out. You know what I mean? Bad leadership. And I was like, I had enough of the Marine Corps after that one deployment, right? Like, I'm just going to do my time and I'm about to get out. And the problem with that is that I was viewing, right, my contract as a contract, not like as a job. Like I tell young guys, like, hey, don't look at especially if they're on their first 4 years, don't look at it as a contract. Just look at it as your job, right? When you look at it that way, right, it helps you not worry about some of the white noise, right? Some of the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, so like for Force Recon and for Sniper Platoon, it was the same thing. It was like, hey, if you want to come here, you got to extend for 2 years. And I was like, nope, not doing it. Absolutely not. I'm not extending, right? Because I'm like tired of playing this game, and like, I don't know if I want to continue to play this game. And I don't want to add 2 years to my contract to figure it out. You know what I mean? That's a long time. Yep. It's really not, but like back then it was, so I was like, I'll just be a squad leader here in Gulf Company. So that's where I stayed. Hindsight being what it was, obviously that was dumb because my buddies went to Sniper Platoon. They never had to extend because we ended up going to the invasion. A couple of them, they pulled out of the last phase of sniper school so we could go to the invasion. I'm like, dang, man. And then my buddies who went over to the Force Company, they didn't have to extend either because they went to the invasion. So I was like, dang it. Failure on my part, but, it is what it is. So, I knew, then, so next deployment, we went to the invasion, and that's, I was only 20. I I was a squad leader at that time, you know.
How did that feel, being that young, but obviously having, you know, taken care of lives essentially?
So, you know, it's like my squad leader kind of groomed me to take over for him. And what I didn't realize at the time was that my leadership style was sucked. It was lackluster, right? Like it was like I know more infantry knowledge than you, right? So it was almost like a not lead by like fear, but like there was definitely like some intimidation factor in there, you know. So it wasn't the best leadership quality or strategy, but like when we found out that we were going to go to the invasion, right? It puts this whole nother, right? Like I was already responsible for these guys, and I had some older dudes. I had a dude who was 37 in my squad. His name was Frazier. He was a lance corporal. He was from Canada, and my first sergeant called me in the office one time. And he's like, "Do you know that Frazier is $250,000 in debt?" Right? And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, no. It was some obscene number. And I swear it was like $250,000. It was well into the six figures, right? And I'm like, no, I had no idea, right? And he's like, well, you need to find out why he's in debt and what he's going to do about it, right? Because people are calling like the company office or whatever, right? Like creditors. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm 20 years old, man, right? I'm like, right, roger that, first sergeant. And I go ask Fraser, I'm like, dude, why are you in $250,000 in debt? You know? And like this dude cared nothing other than nothing. He didn't care anything about anything other than carrying the 249 saw, right? Like that's the only thing. He just wanted to carry that machine gun. Didn't even care about being any other rank, right? And I'm like, why are you in debt, man? And he was like, dude, I came here from Canada. I didn't think that the debt was going to follow me, right? Like, dude, you know that country borders us, right? Like, right there, man. You know, like we joke about the 51st state thing right now, right? Like back then, that would have been hilarious. Like, dude, what made you think that crossing the border to America, right, it's not going to follow you? Like, you didn't change your name, right? Like, you're a Canadian freaking citizen, bro. Now you're making money,
too,
right?
Where everything's checked.
Dude,
like everything's
like, what the
checked.
hell? You know, so and I'm like, so I got guys like this in my squad, you know, and like one dude was a Wiccan, right? Like that my first introduction, like, you know, that type thing, you know. Like I'm like, huh? You know, it's just like you get all these characters, right, in the military, right? And you're like, now I'm yeah, especially in the Marines, you know, all characters, right? Like you have a freaking redneck, a Haitian, right, and a stinking Filipino dude all in the same squad, you know, like talking crap to each other too about their respective races, you know, religions and all that stuff, you know. But as soon as somebody talks junk to one of them, like the whole squad just turns on that person. But yeah, when we found out that we were going to, because like back then, you know, like training was like you go to the field for like a week or two, right? Maybe do a range out there, and then you do like a hike back, or you hike out, hike back. You know, and like just infantry training, right? You go to Mount Town, you know, and we took our training seriously. Like, you know, if days we weren't doing stuff, all we did was PT, clean weapons, and do IA drills, like immediate action drills. Go out to the quad was pretty big. We had a soccer field right down the street, and we just like running squad live, you know, drills. Like I'm up, they see me, I'm down, and practice formations and all that. You know, like we'll find out that we're going to the invasion, and you're like, oh man, like this is what we trained for, like for real. You know, like now it's time to put all of this like to use. Yeah, so like that, you know, like as a squad leader, right? Like, hey, did I train my team leaders well? Did I train my squad well? Right? These guys we've done a ton of live fire ranges, right? Like we practice all the time, you know, like, you know, and there's always the unknown, you know, so, like that stuff is stuff you think about, you know, especially being so young and having a lot of dudes in the squad that were older than me. You know, and you know, actually a couple of guys in my squad came from 1-6, and they had another deployment than I did too. You know, so they weren't really like go-getters. You know what I mean? So that was good because you don't need to have like, you know, clashing, you know, or, you know, butting heads in the same squad
feels
or
like
whatever.
they know
So
more type
those,
deal.
yeah, those dudes are good, but you know, all stuff like that definitely weighs on you. You know, going into combat your first time.
So how did that deployment play out?
Man, honestly, not like we wanted it to, which is like a recurring theme. Like, you know, like when the invasion, so when we got over to Iraq, or to Kuwait rather, right? Like they stuck our company on camp guard, right, at Camp Commando. And so, right, like you could tell things are getting closer, right? And it's like, man, are we going to be stuck here on this camp, right, for the whole, like this, when this war kicks off? Like that is going to be terrible. You know what I mean? And then, like the day the invasion started, right, we're still on camp guard. So Bush comes on the TV or whatever and did the, like, oh, we're doing the whole shock and awe thing. And I was out on the ECP-1, like the main gate, and right, like say, hey, you know, shock and awe, the invasion started, right? Like, oh man, here we are. Like, damn it, this sucks. We're gonna get stuck here the whole time. Did turn over. Camp got hit by a missile, seersucker missile hit right outside the camp. Right when after we did changeover, and I was walking away from the post, it hit like 75 or 100 yards away from that post. Yeah, so then it was because it was like, shoo, boom, right? And we're like, oh, like gas masks are going on, sirens are going off. Like this dude who's another squad leader, Wrigley, he was like, and this was like within probably 5 minutes, right? He's like, I don't think Saddam can hit us with anything down here. Boom, that thing happens, right? One kid was not from my squad, from first squad, was puking in his gas mask. That's like coming out of his gas mask, right? And it's like, because like the Patriot batteries knocked a whole bunch of scuds out of the air, like right above us, you know, and like everyone's gas masked up because like that's everyone's biggest fear is like getting smacked with some chemical weapon from Saddam, you know, like that, you know, like huge freaking fear of everybody, you know what I mean? Getting hit with some kind of like weapon like that, like chemical, biological weapon, right? Because like they give you see all the briefs and videos and all the horror stories, right? And like, oh, here's your little kit, right? Like hit this one first, like it's like antropine, 2-pan chloride, and like Valium, something like that, right? And it's like do one, do the other, right? The Valium shot, I think that's probably they just give that to you so you feel like comfortable as you like pass out and die or something, you know. But so like everyone's got like gas masks on, and that day like just like controlled freaking like not panic but like chaos, right? Because you go to the chow hall and eat, and all of a sudden the missile siren would go off and people go running out of the freaking chow hall. They're all in this bunker outside, and it's like not even buried correctly. Like it's mostly underground, right? And there's like people laying on the ground outside the bunker with their hands on top of their heads, right? Like, and like the first 2 times probably we did it, but then we're like, why go out there? Why would you lay on the ground with just your hands over your head? What is that going to do? Like, might as well sit here and eat your chow, because if the missile hits over there or it hits here, we're all going to die anyways. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to be packed into some freaking bunker, a bunch of yin-yangs out there. Yeah. They're leaving rifles in the chow hall, leaving helmets, like all that. So like the last time it happened, we just grabbed a bunch of rifles, put them by our table. This master sergeant comes in, and they have these little voice emitters, right? Like staff NCOs had a voice emitter on their gas mask back in the day, right? So it sounded like all like robotic, like, what are you doing, right? You know, they're like, we're eating. Like, what are you doing, you know? And as they get to the bunker, we're like, yo, if we go to the bunker, we're going to die anyways. Might as well die eating the last meal, you know what I'm saying? And he like goes running out, you know, all pissed off. And they all come back in like later, like, can I get my rifle? Like, oh, is this yours? Is this your serial number? Like, hey, maybe you should take this with you next time, you know, like, you know, 1 arm's distance from that thing, you know. It's like, just people like lose their mind. It's just freaking ridiculous. But we found out of that first day that we were going to attach to Echo Company, or my platoon was, and then we're going to go into Iraq the next day. So we're like, oh, thank goodness. Like the rest of the company's staying here, like, suckers, you know, we're going to go get some and you're not. And then it's like the next day we flew out on I think on a helo, some helos, but we're like, yep, here we are, like we're going to Iraq, and like it was like the deployment where it was like of like the almost, you know what I mean? Like we fired a couple pot shots, right? We did some patrols, got mortared a couple times, you know, like, so we drove right by Nasiriyah, right? We're like, oh, well, like that's Nasiriyah right there, right? Fighting's going on. We're like, all right, bye Nasiriyah. We're like, damn it, like are we gonna get into like a major gunfight here, you know? And we never got into a major gunfight, right? Like it just was maddening, you know?
Yeah.
Like what can we do to get into a firefight with somebody, you know? Like what can we do? You know, like that was like the plot we had with like the sniper platoon. We're like, what can we do? Right? Like where are there bad dudes that need like, you know, killing? Like we need to get into this thing. There. You know what I mean? And it just like I said, we did a bunch of patrols, man, you know, checkpoints, right? Like, you know, and the ROEs were like crazy loose. It's like you see someone wearing black, it's Saddam Fayadeen, kill him. You know what I mean? Like, give me somebody wearing black. Anybody, I don't care, you know? And we just never got into a major gunfight, you know what I mean? It was like, oh my gosh. And we're all over the place. Right, at one point in time, we were doing security on this ammo supply point that we had blown up, right? So there's there was like the internals from all these artillery shells all over the place, you know? And so we would take pop-up flare tubes and we would pack them with these filaments. We'd make bottle rockets out of them. We're shooting bottle rockets, almost shooting them around this freaking ammo supply point when we're on like 50% security, you know? Because like we had no idea what we were even doing there. Like we run patrols out of there. We're like, why are we protecting? Like some of the bunkers hadn't been blown up, and they want us, I guess, to watch them. But one day came and we left, and all the ammo was still there. So what were we doing for that whole time? Yeah. And that's probably, you know, like, and that's probably a bunch of the stuff they ended up turning into IEDs, you know. But like, all right, next place we go. Like, oh, doing security at some frickin' airfield south of Baghdad, you know, and like, no, when we were in Koup, that we ran out of chow, so we're down to like 1 MRE a day. You know, we're like shooting pigeons with wrist rockets in the warehouses and cooking them suckers up in canteen cups, which in hindsight was not the smartest thing to do at all, but you know, it worked at the time. And it was just like, it sucks being in the grunt sometimes because you don't know nobody knows what's going on. Yeah. You know, you're like we're all looking for like a job, right? Like it was like we're like the Lost Battalion or something like that. You know, like some guys are occupying one of Saddam's palaces, right? We're just spread all over the place, and it was just like, you know, like, you know, you wanted to get it. I think we just have probably like my generation, especially, like we grew up with the wrong mentality, right? Of like war was going to be for us because like we grew up watching like Saving Private Ryan, right? Like, dude, that's, you know, like when you're like, man, like, because people are like, oh, you've been to like, you know, you've seen a combat, right? But you're like, it wasn't like that though. Like that was freaking insane. Not two sides,
you know? Kind of.
So like even, you know, like, you know, you get shot at, you get freaking mortared, missiles or whatever, right? Like, right, whether it's one bullet that got shot at you or 10,000 bullets have been shot at you, right? Like you're still going to pucker, right? You know, it's going to be a crazy adrenaline like day, yeah. But you know, it's like the invasion deployment was like another one that was like a letdown. You know, you're like, how did we freaking, like, and you hear about like the gunfights in Nasiriyah and, you know, all that stuff. And you're just like, man, our deployment was not that good. You know, like that, I'm still not like satisfied with this yet. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck do I got to do to like, you know, get into like a protracted like gunfight, which, you know, like it's just young, like, because like gunfights actually suck, you know, but they could be scary. But like, you know, like you just haven't, you're like, you're chasing the dragon. You know what I mean? You're like, I just didn't get into a big enough gunfight to really call myself a real or the best like infantryman, right? Like this, I had signed up to like fight for this country. Like I want to get into a like fight, and right. So it's just like another deployment. It's like, oh my gosh, like damn it, like we just can't. It's not happening.
Did that surprise you that they were not like even that active and everything too? Just kind of how it was moving.
It just like like I said, they don't like tell you much. Down to at the squad leader and a battalion level, like back then, anyways. So it was like nobody knew kind of what was going on, and like we would get reports, right? And like there would be intel briefings, right? Like the intel kid, he's like a lance corporal, he's just regurgitating, whatever. So like we knew what was going on, right? And we knew there was some heavy fighting and stuff like that. And we'd seen like the guys from LAR that they got hit up pretty good. Like saw them afterwards, right? And like I saw the guys from the 4th platoon that was on my previous deployment with me. Like them dudes just come rolling out of the desert, right, on these freaking IFAVs, right? And dude, they just come rolling out of nowhere up to like our convoy, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys up to? And like, dude, we're out, trying to, looking for a gunfight. And we're like, oh man, I should have definitely gone to freaking recon, like, dang it. I come sitting here on this convoy, freaking wasting my life away. I mean, we knew what was going on and all that, and it just like, you're like, man, how were we like almost in the thick of it, and then we weren't, So, but at least we weren't with the rest of the company who was stuck on Camp Commando for the whole time. Yeah. So there is that, right? So like we got a little bit more credibility than those dudes. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just like, dang, man. But I mean, it's cool. Like you come back from that, like, and everyone was like, different country. I mean, different like return for us than like a lot of like the Vietnam guys that we all talked to, right? They're like, oh man, thank goodness, like they're not spitting on you guys and
especially
all that.
At that time too.
Yeah. We actually flew back. When we flew back, we flew into one of our layovers was in Maine, right? So I'm like, oh man, cool. We're gonna hit an airport terminal, like get off the plane, get some chow. Rex had them Sbarro freaking pizza shops right in the airport back then. I was like, dude, I would kill a piece of Sbarro pizza, We got off the plane and we were like, they had our area roped off, right? We couldn't go to anything in the airport, right? We were in this one area, like you get to the bathrooms and like that was it. So we're like standing there in our camis and you could see the Sbarro. It's like right there. Right, and it's like ladies there with their kids, and they're like, "Oh, wave at the Marines, honey." Right, and like little kids like waving at us, like, "Oh, thank you." Right, and like I'm like, man, I feel like a zoo animal right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, "Oh, hey, look at the animals over there. Look at the crayon eaters over there, honey. Look at them guys. They just came home. Oh, thanks everyone." I'm like, dude, I want that Sbarro pizza right there. But like. It's like, I want the Sbarro pizza right there, and like the worst thing about coming home back then is that we just got home, got hammered that night, ran a PFT the next morning, and then we went on leave. Right? We just rolled home. So I was like, boom, we're in Kuwait freaking 72 hours ago. Now we're home on leave. And that, like, I took a month of leave too. So that was just, that was eye-opening going from that, coming home, they don't do that. You got to spend like a week or two home CONUS before you go on leave, like for some decompression time, which is good. But yeah, so like that deployment just, I was like, man, like, what the heck, we got home from leave, so 1 month of leave, and they're like, hey, we're going to Okinawa next month, and till whenever, right? UDP. So we're home like 60 days, maybe tops, right? And we're like, bam, out the door to Okinawa.
Straight to Japan.
Yeah, going straight to Japan. We're like, oh, dude. And this is like, so it was like invasion was over. It was like this weird stretch where like there was people in Iraq, but like we weren't going to maintain nobody knew what was going on. Really, honestly, like that's what was going on. Nobody knew. Right then, dudes start going back to Iraq. I'm like, here we go again. These dudes are going to Iraq. We're gonna be stuck in the Philippines. Like, why? And, or not in the Philippines, stuck in Japan. We went down to the Philippines, which is freaking awesome. But we spent like 8 months, I'd say, in Okinawa, and went up to mainland Japan, did some training up there, had some parties with the Japanese self-defense force. Like those dudes they like their sake. They're pretty wild dudes. It's interesting partying with those dudes.
You got a particular story with them?
Well, so they like to like these dudes get hammered and they love to they like to just pull out their junk, right? Like that. Seriously, man. I don't like. That's like you do a huge and they like so we go through this whole ceremony, right, to bust open the sake barrel, right? Ceremony, and then you're just ripping sake with these dudes, which, drinking sake with them, right? We're just ripping shots of it, not really even understanding that you're supposed to like sip sake like an actual human being, not a savage, And like these dudes just get hammered, right? And inevitably, one of them just, whoop, these just pull it out, right? Then a Marine does, right? And then it's just like a literal dick measuring contest, you know what I mean? And like nobody can fully speak Japanese and nobody can fully speak English, you know what I mean? So like, ooh, like there's a lot of gesticulating, right? And hand arm signals and shit like that, And like everyone's speaking some kind of common language by the end of the night. And it was just my platoon that was up there. The other, like the rest of the battalion, they had their whole companies there. Our rest of our company was down in the Philippines, except for my platoon, which is again cut away. Like we call ourselves the bastards because we always got chopped off our company. Like, oh, third platoon, go to Echo Company, right? Go to your other daddy over there. So those other companies, so everyone had like a sister company to train with from the Japanese. So like one night, first platoon from this company would go have dinner with their counterparts. Then the next night, right? Then the next night, different platoons would go. But for us, it was like we were the only platoon there. So we went down like every night to these guys' camp and are just drinking sake and eating with them and stuff. And one dude in our headquarters, so we had this dude, we call him the Ibano Slasher. So he got hammered one night and went to the Japanese motor pool and slashed a couple of the tires from the motor pool, right? So like, and he got caught doing it too, which is even worse, right? So he gets in trouble, right? Thank goodness he wasn't in our platoon. He was just in our headquarters for our company, right? But still no good, right? It's not by goodwill with the Japanese, right? So that happened. I got in a fight with my first team leader one night. No, actually, well, he was hammered and I didn't drink this night, and he freaking just was running his mouth. I'm like, dude, just stop talking, man. Like, seriously. Like, I'm getting in my rack, going to sleep. We're in these GP tents out in the northern Japan. So we got kerosene heaters in there. It's hot, or it's cold up there. I mean, snowing and all that. And, you don't get a lot of killer cold weather gear back in 2003, like 4 in the Marine Corps. You know what I mean? So I'm in my black sleeping bag, getting all warm, and all of a sudden the dude jumps on top of me, starts hitting me. So I rolled him over, hit him a few times back. Well, I hit him a whole bunch of times back, but so we had to hide him in the tent for the next week because his face was blown up, swollen. Platoon commander saw the whole thing, but he was naked with just his helmet on because he was hammered, right? So. We called him Naked Guy after that for a long time. Naked Guy. But yeah, so we had to hide him in the tent, bring him chow for about a week till his face unswelled, because I freaking hit him a couple good shots right in the face. But and then after that, went down to the Philippines, that deployment too, and worked for the task force down there, which was some of the most fun I ever did in the Marine Corps. right? So these dudes were Green Berets that we're working for, right? And it was like me, my platoon commander, and my squad. And the SF major was a Citadel football player. So there was like an outdoor gym there we had. So Jack Steele with him, talked to him. Like they had just moved into this new compound. So like we redid all the security, standard operating procedures and convoy routes and all that stuff. And it was like super fun. Cause like the SF guys, they were super cool. We'd go to the range and shoot with them. They'd teach us some stuff, teach us driving techniques in the gravel pit and all that. Like, so it was like, again, another, group of dudes, right? Like SF guys, right? That treat you like human beings, right? Like you have common sense, right? Like give you the rope, like to hang yourself with, so to speak, right? Like, if you can't, if I went to the major with like a plan, like, hey, sir, this is what we're gonna do. Boom, 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 boom. Right. This is why. That guy was like, yep, green light, you're good. And it was super refreshing to work with a command like that. So, and like I'd go to dinners with them, like to see the Filipino general and like the senior enlisted, whatever they call their ranks in the Philippine, in the Filipino Marines there.
By any chance, did you meet a guy named Dave Fielding?
Fielding?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because he was Green Beret operating. I don't know, but it might not overlap, but I just know he was in that area at the time. Yeah. Had him on the show previously, so I thought I'd just check in on that.
Cool. No, I don't remember that. I did almost get a Thompson out of there, though. They had one in a warehouse, but a guy sold it. I was hoping to get one of those. But, like, I say that, right? But, like, I'm a new sergeant, right? And we're, like, in this warehouse, dude. And there was, like, because I went over to the old team camp with this SF dude, right? And, like, there's warehouse of just bins and bins of Vietnam-era M16A1s, right? Tons, like, just thrown in piles of these things. And then over in the corner, there was a water-cooled 30 caliber machine gun, like on a tripod, like, dude, freaking super badass. And then there's like M14s, there's M1 Grands, right? Like and like some of the M1 Grands and M14s, they're still like packed up in the wrappers and stuff, And there was 2 Thompson submachine guns there. I'm like, yo, can I get one of those things? And he's like, well, I'll offer that guy some money. I'm like, hey, I'll give you $40 for one of those right there. And he was like, sure, like come back in a couple days. So we go back in a couple days and they're gone, right? Because I was like, he's like, oh, you should grab an M1 Grand. I'm like, you can't break that down and get through customs, right? Now, in hindsight, like, would it have been the smartest thing to do? Absolutely not, right? But I was like, at that time, I was like, dude, if I can get one of these, I can break it down in my sea bag. I'll put half the parts in my sea bag, as a matter of fact, half of them in my ruck. They'll go through customs when we get back, right? Which, like, I ended up bringing 2 cases of San Miguel beer back through customs, and, like, they didn't give a crap. So I probably would have been good. But, like, still, man, like, that would have been not probably my smartest endeavor, thing I've ever done, right, was to get one of those. But Philippines was super fun. Again, one of those places, like, the Muslim side of town, right? Every now and then they would shoot at, convoys and stuff like that, or launch a mortar from the mosque, that was up on the hill above the airport and stuff. And it was like, you could get into a gunfight, but we're probably not going to, you know what I mean? Like the SF dudes and like the task force, right? They're out catching bad dudes with the Filipinos and stuff. We're on security again. But at least it was like a cool detail because we had one truck had a freaking machine gun mount welded on it. So we'd have a dude rocking a 240 on there and be driving through town, like picking people up from the airport and whatever. So I had fun down there. And I was, again, like I said, just here's what you need to do, right? Task condition standard. And then as long as I did it, like I had freedom of movement. So that was super cool. I was thinking about re-enlisting around that time when I got back from that. Right then, like we got back from the Philippines and like right back into like normal just infantry battalion BS, right? Like we're like locked down the base for a couple weeks because 3rd Recon Battalion wrote Japan sucks and foul line chalk on the softball field, right? Like we're locked down. They're like, they're gonna find out who did it, right? Like, okay, good luck with that, But meanwhile, everybody pays. You know what I mean? Can't go out in town, can't do anything. It's just like I just I'm like, I put in a drill instructor package actually. 'Cause I think it like when, at some point in time in a dude's career, like he's considered a Marine anyways, like considered being a drill instructor, like a lot of guys. But I'm like, I put in a package, reenlistment package, and it came back like quick too, like within a day or two, approved. And I was like, you know what? And I don't know why. I can't remember what had happened, right? But I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not playing this game, right? I'm getting out. So I was like, I like made that go away, and then got out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this was a transition period before you're considering. And then ended up going back into recon. So what was that time like in between? What was going through your head?
Oh man, so like I said, when I first got out, I milked some cows, worked for my buddy's farm for a little bit, and then when I went to college, I stopped doing that, and I walked in to see the lacrosse coach. Like right now, thinking back on it, I thought I had a plan, but it really wasn't the most solid of plans, honestly. I was like, I'm going to go to MCC, and I'm going to play lacrosse, right? I reached out to the coach, emailed him. He's like, come in and talk to me. So I went in and talked to him, and he was like, hey, look, man, you're in shape, right? You'll probably make the team, but you probably won't play because you haven't played in 4 years. Mm-hmm. I did play lacrosse down on the beach in Wilmington, like 2003, like the very first year that Wilmington, North Carolina had any lacrosse stuff going on. Like I randomly saw a flyer, and like now lacrosse is huge in Wilmington. Massive, so I played in that summer league a couple of years. Like Camp Lejeune actually had a team, and we would do some tournaments. So I did play during my time, but not like a lot. So he was like, dude, you'll make the team, but you won't play. So I was like, all right, that's good enough for me. Like I'll play, you know what I mean? When school started, I got a job as a freaking assistant manager at a bar, which was miserable. I would go to school, and then I would go to practice for lacrosse in the fall for fall ball, and then I would go work at this place from like 6 o'clock to like 4 in the morning. Where I was only getting paid like $500 a week, like bartenders on a weekend, like they're getting like $400 a night in tips and whatever, right? And I'm just like, dude, I'm doing everything, right? And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, it's a terrible job. So I parted from that pretty quick. We parted ways amicably because I was just like, I'm not working like this. But so like my time being out, right? So like playing lacrosse gave me the lacrosse players are like, they're as close to frickin' infantrymen as you can get, really, in a college setting, man. Like a bunch of frickin' miscreants,
Yes, that's definitely true.
They're just, great group of dudes, and like lacrosse is, super aggressive, right? I mean, like what other sport on the face of this planet can you physically assault a human being with a post and not go to jail? Or where can you do that at all, really, right? You know what I'm saying? That's what I love about lacrosse. Like when you tell people like that, like this is legal form of assault, right? You're going to beat another human being
with a stick,
right? With a stick, with a titanium, even, right? And not go to jail, right? This is awesome, right? You like spend some time in the box, maybe if you hit a dude the wrong way, right? But other than that, you're good.
You got to really hit him the wrong way too.
Oh yeah, right, because we've laid some violent hits on dudes. So like being on the team was, and I ended up, playing, starting, being a captain both years. Doing that, like gave me the outlet and like structure that I needed. So I joined the reserves and I was doing that, but like half of the year for that, you're doing frickin' Toys for Tots, it was some good extra coin. They just changed the unit up there where I was at from tanks, headquarters of tanks to infantry. So if you stayed in that unit, you had to go to infantry school. So like when you do drill time, it was like teach guys how to be infantry. So it was like more of like a teaching part when I was doing reserve stuff. But the reserves guys, they're like, you know what? Because like you see all kinds of weird shit in the reserves. Like dudes come in, haven't had a haircut in like a month. Sometimes they don't even got to show up. Right, they're like, where's so-and-so? And they're like, oh, he hasn't been here in 2 months. We're like, well, let's go get him. Like, he's supposed to be here. They're like, nah, we can't really do that. You're like, the hell's going on here? You know, like, dude, you're a Marine. Your place of duty is here, bro. Right? Like, blew my mind. Like, dudes with no haircuts, I'd be there with clippers, man. I'd be there with clippers, like, yo, come here. Get in the bathroom. You're supposed to have a haircut. Right? Like, shave their heads and stuff, right? And the company gunny's like, dude, please just tone it down a little bit for me, man. Like, you're intense. I'm like, dude, I can't believe this right now. Like, come on. Right? Like, the guys, some of the reservists are like, hey, man, if you're like that motivated, why don't you just go back on active duty? Right? I'm like, maybe I will. Yeah, the first year I was out, I put in a package to do the X-ray program for SF. And they were going to, like, I went to MEPS, swore in, did all that stuff, and they wouldn't give me a bonus. So I got to keep my rank, do all that, or keep my rank. I'd have gone to some, like, little course like this, how we do things in the Army, right? And then go to assessment selection or whatever. I don't know. They had some pipeline for me, right? But they didn't want to give me a bonus. So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, hindsight being what it is, like, that's dumb because I would have done a lot more probably with that stuff than I did with Recon and Force Recon. But I was like, nope, not doing it. So I got discharged from them. And then I was like, you know, my sophomore year of college, during lacrosse season, I was like, you know, like I had to sit down and like have a heart-to-heart with myself, you know, like, what do you want to do, right? Because I was getting a degree in liberal arts, right, which is nothing, right? That's just like figure out what you want to do with your life. I was getting recruited to some good schools to play lacrosse, right, for my junior and senior year. But like, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was a big boy, right? Like I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, right? But you know what I do want to do? Like, you know, I got an itch to scratch, right? Like, war's still going on, right? I'd talked to some of my buddies and my old company commander in 2-6 before they went to Ramadi. They tried to do a by name request for me because you can, like, units can sometimes by name request guys back then. So they could request for me to come to the unit, right? Even as a reservist, do some time and then, you know, go back to being a reservist, like, after they were done with me type thing. And like the reserve units, they had just lost a bunch of guys in Iraq from the sniper platoon. They had like a real rough week. A whole bunch of dudes, like 15 dudes got killed. And they wanted me to send me to that unit. And I was like, nope, I don't want to go to a unit that just had all that go down. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'll just finish school out, send my sophomore year, I'm just like, yo, I'm going to go back on active duty. Like, I don't have a calling here, right? But I've always wanted to be a recon Marine, right? Ever since that first deployment, right? I always wanted to do recon and Force Recon, like, be a freaking team leader, like Force Recon team leader. Like, I'm going to go back in and go to recon. So, like, the recruiting station, like, literally was across the street from my apartment in college. So, like, I'd go over there to the recruiter on, like, a Friday and be like, hey, let's go get beers. And you're like, I got to talk to some prospects. I'm like, no, let's get beers and we'll go back and talk to them. Sometimes that may or may not have happened. I help them. Like, I get everybody going to infantry. It's like, I don't need infantry people, man. I need motor T guys. That's what I was talking to them for. I'm like, oh, man, sorry. You know, like, I don't care. You know, I didn't care about his mission numbers or whatever. But so I was friends with that dude. And I was like, hey, he's like, I need one more person to make Rookie of the Year. I was like, look, let's make a deal. I'll go on active duty, like, next week, like tomorrow, right? But I don't want orders. I want orders to second recon, but I don't want them till May, to the beginning of June, so I can graduate from college, right? So I need to finish out my school year, play lacrosse, right? And then you can send me, right? And he was like, deal. I was like, because you're what they call a recruiter's aide. And recruiter's aide, you can be hollering people to back and forth to MEPS. Like, you're like the little, like the office bitch boy, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I'm not doing any of that. Like, I got to finish lacrosse, finish school, right? And he was like, look, man, if it gets me Rookie of the Year, like, done deal. No matter. So, like, in March, I went back on active duty. So now I'm getting paid as a sergeant. And I'm just like, I give them a couple names every week. Like, here, call these guys. They might want to come in the military, you know? Like, the lacrosse is probably what kept me, you know, out as long as I did, because, like, I had, like, the teammates I have, like, I'm still friends with them all right now. I hunt with them. We, like, get together when we can. You know, everyone's freaking married and has kids now. And I actually, on the way down here in the airport, I saw one of my defensive men, him and his wife, randomly, in Detroit. I was like, man, that looks like Dan Cleveland, like, comes walking up, and their gate was right past ours, going to Punta Cana for vacation, like randomly. I haven't seen him a couple of years. I was like, "What's up?" Like, caught up for like 2 minutes, and then he got
small world.
craziness, man, like crazy. So, like, like I said, those dudes are like, it was like partying like with infantrymen, like they're as close like to Marine Corps dudes as you can get. So I wanted to finish that up, and we did good both years. I played. I got ejected out of my last lacrosse game, regional final or semifinals maybe. Where I got ejected out of that game because my freaking
leg.
I mean, it got to go out with a bang, right? My freaking roommate. They're like, these dudes were like cheap shotting us, like they're like our arch enemy team. And like when I'd be on the crease, dude would be sticking his butt end of his stick, under my cup, right? Cup checking me, like I'm getting slashed on face-offs, right? Like slashed, but like not like refs aren't getting it. My roommate gets cheap shotted, like hard, had to go to the hospital, right? So I lost, like after that, I lost my marbles. Like dude slashed me, and I just rap checked him right in the side of the head and about knocked him out, right? Like. Go to the box for that. Yep. Score girls are running their mouths, and I'm freaking like teeing off on them. Like told the coach to, like shut the fuck up. Like they're like, dude, don't make me come over there. Like I was like not a good place. And I finally like I can't remember what happened. That then like freaking booting me. So like I got escorted to the line of my last lacrosse game, right by the state troopers.
I'm going to war.
Yeah, I'm like all right, I'm fully ready to go back to the military now. Lacrosse what kept me out. And then just like there was nothing I found that I wanted to do. Like I laid some tile with my grandfather while I was out. I did construction one summer, right? I'm like, no, I'm really good at demoing stuff, right? But I'm not good at like the building aspect of it. I need supervision, tiling. I can do it. Like I know enough about tiling to be dangerous. I was like, but like I don't want to do that stuff, like I want to go back to the Marine Corps. So that's when I, went back in to go to recon.
So what, I guess joining in, I mean, jumping, I guess to BRC, going through that. Or actually, I guess to lay a little bit of foundation, could you maybe break down kind of recon versus MARSOC versus like SEALs for those that may not be familiar, kind of what maybe recons, what their operations look like, and also what kind of delineates them from some of those other elite units as well?
Yeah. So SEALs, Navy, sea, air, land, work for SOCOM. Since the war on terror started, like they've like grown into more of a like they do a lot of land operations as well. So back in the day on my first deployment, we had a SEAL platoon that was attached to the MSPF as well, right? So like there used to be a SEAL team, Force Recon platoon, right? You had your battalion recon platoon, right? They had this whole like team of hitters, right? That went away shortly after the start of the global war on terror because they were getting tapped out to go wherever they went. And, so they have a lot of overlap with other entities too. And then MARSOC came about, so Marine Corps Special Operations came about in 2006. They'd done some experimental, like that, it was called Det 1 prior to that, right, to see if, Marines can integrate in the SOCOM, which obviously we can and have. And then they created MARSOC. So when they did that, they closed down each of the Force Recon companies and then created MARSOC. So Second Force Recon, First Force Recon was gone, right? And they created, First and Second MSOB, Special Operations Battalion, out of that. And then the Foreign Military Training Unit, they turned into Third Marine Special Operations Battalion, so Third MSOB. And so when I first came back in, it was a real weird time because there was no assessment selection, no IT individual training course for raiders to go through. Right, there were Force Recon guys that are now,
transition.
raiders now. So it was just a really interesting time. Cause like when we got done with BRC, like some of the guys went we called it down the street. So it was down in the Force Recon building down the road. And like some dudes got grandfathered in, right? So that they never had to go to ITC or anything like that. And some of the guys that I went to, that was in RIP with, in the recon, the indoctrination platoon, they were in the very first ITC class, which had like guys that we knew as instructors for them who'd never even been, so like they were there since MARSOC started. But so MARSOC, they work for Special Operations Command, and they do a lot of what Special Forces does, and a lot of like there's a lot of what SEALs do, right? That more Marine oriented, right? So they do recce, they do FID, Foreign Internal Defense, UW, unconventional warfare, raids, special reconnaissance, all that stuff. So recon and now force recon, because Marine Corps realized like, oh shit, right, the MEF doesn't have a deep reconnaissance asset. It's like, all right, we'll stand force recon back up. So they stood that back up. Right, so recon, right, battalion recon, right, they operate up to like 30 kilometers maybe behind the forward edge of the battle area, right? Like, and then force recon is the deep reconnaissance asset. So beyond that, recon and force recon, like they're all recon Marines. Back in the day, it was like you spend some time at recon battalion, and then you take the screener to go to force. There's guys like my first deployment, if I would have if I would have gone over to RIP and gone to the reconnaissance school, and then I would have gone straight to force recon, but do all the indocs and all that stuff. Because they were like, it was very political back then. Like if you're like, hey, these guys, said I can come over and screen, right? Then you would go over to go through RIP, go to ARS and go to force company. Or back then they still had the OJT program, which is on the job training, which you would go and just get your shit pushed in for like a couple months, right? And like earn it like the way hard way, you know what I mean? Because they're like, this dude's still how many because by the Marine Corps order, like there's a certain amount of hours and all these wickets you got to meet, but it's like I know guys who got OJT'd who were like, I would rather have gone to the amphibious reconnaissance school, right, or BRC or ARS, right? Like I'd rather have gone to those schools than do what I had to do an OJT. So you'd start a battalion recon, go to force recon, battalion recon is a division asset, Marine division, and you go traditionally, right, by almost doctrine, right, a recon platoon goes and works for a infantry battalion. So that's what I did in Afghanistan. Worked for an infantry battalion and did the reconnaissance and surveillance for them and stuff like that. Force recon is the MEF asset, right? So bigger level Marine Corps, and supposed to do deep reconnaissance and direct action raids. And there's a lot of bleed over, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So, when I came back in, I just got done with lacrosse season, so I was in great shape, but going back in and then going to RIP, that was that was just a freaking eye opener.
What was the experience like?
Well, when I checked into Recon Battalion, there's this dude who's the OOD, the officer of the day, right? And his name's George Rubel, right? And I give him my orders. I'm in camis. So, I'm in this weird place because back then, the largest size service uniform, right? That's what you're supposed to check in and is your alphas, right? I had to have it specially tailored because my upper body was so big. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't have a alpha blouse, so I just checked in camis, and I was like, I'm just going to let it ride and just know that my new unit, you have to do this form called a 604 form to get them tailored, specially, blah, blah, whatever, right? I'll tell them I'll need a 604 form, right? And hopefully that'll smooth it out, you know what I mean? So I give this dude Rubel my orders, and he's like, this isn't right. There's no way you should be coming to a company here. He's like, are you an 0321, right? Recon MLS? I'm like, no, man, I'm 0311. He's like, why do you have orders to a company? I'm like, I don't dude, I don't know, man. Do I look like the guy who wrote the orders? You know what I mean? He's like, this is impossible. You have to go to RIP, right? Like, there's no way you're an 11 and just go into a company. I'm like, look, dude, I don't know what to tell you, man. Right? Like, I didn't write the orders. This is what I was given, right, to come here to check in, right? And I was like, you know, as a sergeant major here. Well, I mean, he wasn't, you know, and I'm like, hey, man, how about you just tell me where the fuck to go, right? Like, stop giving me a hard time. Who do I go check in with around here, right? That's what I'm here to do, check in. Mm-hmm. Where should I check in? Well, I do my check in. Well, come to find out the next morning for PT. And it's like, it's not like hey, this is what you need to do, like type like check in, like, because the whole rest of the battalion was gone and still in Iraq. And just getting back like a couple weeks after I checked in there. So it was like skeleton crew, like the recon, the RIP or RTP, like they call those both things, recon training platoon or indoc platoon. But like that was running, and there was like skeleton crew of people, you know. And so it was like, here, one of the NCOs in the RIP platoon, I'll tell you what to do type thing. So it's like I had to go get stencils and mark my shirts in a certain place. Like I'm like, these dudes are trying to like tell me all this stuff, right? But there's like no coherent rhyme or reason to what the hell's going on in my life right now. Like, oh, Andy, look, Andy, you need to learn knots. Andy, you need to learn this. And like fire hosing me. I'm like, hey man, let's order this. Like, what do I got to start with here? You know? Well, the next morning for PT, guess who comes out as the instructor running PT? Freaking George damn Rubel, right? I'm like, oh shit. This is the same dude I was mouthing off to yesterday, man. He comes out, just like looked at me and like grinned, you know, like I'm like, oh shit, man. Like it's like you just do stupid stuff and RIP, right? Like 8 counts in the pond, like thousands of them. Just for whatever. It was like, wake up, get thrashed, you know, PT, some classes, right? Get thrashed some more, right? Like, and then like, that's just wash, rinse, repeat every day, you know, like do knots, right? All that kind of stuff, like memorize the recon creed, right? Like, and just a bunch of bullshit games, like, you know, and there's a bunch of NCOs in the platoon, so it's like, all right, cool. I'm just gonna play the game until we're done for the day, and you know, and then next morning we'll do it again. Like then the young guys who are like just out of SOI, they don't understand the game yet, right? So they're all stressed out every day, all day, right? Because they got to run around with a pack on, and they got to learn all this stuff, right? And he's got people yelling at him and all that, and we're like, yeah, you know, it's just like another day. Definitely, you know. Not the most fun I've ever had, though, at times. Yeah, freaking, our class had so I was a sergeant, you know. We had a couple sergeants, a couple corporals in there. Right, and one of the instructors lived next door to me in the barracks. So I'm like, you know, whatever. And I'm a sergeant. He's a corporal, so he's a rank below me. First night I'm in the barracks, right? Dude like knocks on my door. He's like, get in the pond. I'm like, fuck you, right? I just slammed the door in his face, you know? And dang, he like knocks on the door again. He's like, I said, get in the pond. I said, look, man, during working hours, I'll play your game, right? But as soon as we're secured for the day, don't knock on this door unless you want to have a beer with me. Now get the fuck out of here, right? And like slam the door in his face again. And like never had a problem getting woken up at midnight ever again. Dudes are like, how come you weren't in the pond last night? I was like, I'm not getting in the pond. You're out of your freaking mind, man. Like, no, dude, I'll play that game on working hours, you know? So yeah, it was just coming back in and going to that environment. You're like, it was just, you know, like, it was probably good. I just get like the rigid discipline back.
Yeah, dials back in a bit.
Right? Like I'm no longer the captain of the lacrosse team, like running amok, you know?
Yeah.
Like back to Marine Corps things here. So I think that part was good. And then like starting to, like one of the RIP instructors was one of the dudes who was on the recon platoon on my first deployment. And a bunch of the guys there, like, so I was the same rank as them. So I would just talk to them about stuff, you know, and pick their brains. So it was good to start getting, like, hearing
see
what those,
you're going to be expecting.
Yeah, see what those guys had already done, you know, and, you know, especially coming from an infantry background, right? Like those dudes got it, you know? So, yeah, it didn't take long to assimilate back and, you know, get back in the full Marine Corps mode, more of the story.
So what with like BRC, do you think was some kind of the unique skill sets that you were learning or kind of developing?
Leadership for one, because, I kind of just like, I always try to do the best at everything I do. Sometimes I'm probably a little bit overzealous on that too, thinking back on it. But like, I wanted to be a team leader. Like I wanted to be a recon, team leader, like Force Recon team leader. Like I didn't want to just be like the low man in a team. So like at recon school, so like I was a team leader like in RIP, and I was like a team leader at. I actually started out as class leader at recon school. But then I got fired during land nav for. I don't even know why. Maybe somebody didn't make time. I don't know. You don't really need much of a reason to get fired, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're the first dude to be class leader, you're gonna get fired anyway. So they fired me and made my buddy at Hunter the class leader, which worked out even better for me anyway. But like leadership, seeing how you run a recon team, or at least trying to see, because I say that and I still didn't know squat like that, as a recon Marine, or guy trained to be a recon Marine, amphib stuff, right? On the Zodiac engines and how to do surf passages and hydrographic surveys, all the amphibious stuff definitely was all new. Well, it wasn't new because I was in boat company in the grunts, but like we never did hydrographic surveys, and honestly, we really never screwed. I never screwed with boats because we were part of the MSPF. So all that stuff was new. Operating, with a 6-man team, vice a 14-man squad, and the different missions, and learning how to like shut my mouth. That cause I sometimes have a if I don't like stuff, I let people know. And it took me many years to learn how to filter. And be tactful, let's say.
Yeah, be tactical.
Yeah, be tactful. So after I did my first patrol for patrol week, they're like, hey, no more talking. And they gave me 2 45-pound plates, and they said, put that in your ruck. You're the slack man. Shut up. We don't want to hear you talk. They ask you questions. We don't hear nothing. Do not talk to them. Do not give them pointers. Don't do anything. Right? I was like, roger that. So for like most of the week, I didn't talk. I was just like dude in the back holding security, right, doing all that. But like the problem with that is that the dudes were failing patrols, right? So when you start doing stuff that's boogered up, the instructor had a whole bunch of CS grenades, right? And he'd throw that CS grenade and be like, thing would pop and you're like, start coughing. He's like, break contact, right? And then like break contact. And then one dude was sucking so bad, he's like, this dude Patrick's like, I'm going to walk you all until someone quits. And we just walked for like 4 or 5 hours, like 3 mile an hour pace, probably easily. Right. But he's like, who's going to quit? Like every couple minutes, he's like, who's going to quit? And I'm like, I'm not saying nothing because like I told me to shut up. So that happened 2 nights in a row. Right. I want to quit hikes, which nobody quit. Which, good for those guys, obviously. And like the third night, so the third night, we start going down that rabbit hole, and I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me with this bullshit right now. Like, popped a couple CS grenades, and the instructor just got pissed off, and he put us down in Combat Town or Mount Town, wherever it is out there in Pendleton, right? And he's like, you got him, right, to me. And I was like, yes. Right, I was like, now listen here. Get out your cleaning kits. Now, mind you, so we're carrying rubber rifles, right? I made all the dudes get out their cleaning kits and start cleaning their weapons. Right? I'm like, look, first thing in a hide, right? Weapon, gear, self. Clean your freaking rifles right now. I'm like, I am tired. Like, I just started chewing them out. Like, my buddy Jay was in a hide up on the side of the hill. He said you could hear me yelling at him in Combat Town. So I'm like, you fucking suck. Right? Like, dude, I've had to keep my mouth closed all week. Right? Like, we're just hiking miles and miles. One of you needs to quit. Right? Because I'm tired of doing this. Like, you guys are, like, you suck. Like, come on. And, right, which, in hindsight wasn't nice, but it was the truth, And I'm like, I'm tired. Like, we got CS like 23 or 24 times, like, in probably 12 hours, or less. So then we get put up in a hide. This one dude's falling asleep. So I got out of the hide, asked the instructor. I'm like, hey, give me a CS grenade. And he's like, why? I was like, I want to give it to Garcia. I'm going to pull the pin. And then I'm going to have him hold it. And if he falls asleep, he'll compromise the whole team. So it's a win-win for you, you know? And he was like, man, I like that. He's like, I need you to dig a trench around him, right? Dig a trench around him because, like, if you light Pendleton on fire, we're not going to get to use CS anymore, and it's going to be a huge problem, right? So I was like, roger that, right? He probably thought I was out of my mind, right? So I freaking do a trench around this kid. I give him the grenade. I pull the pin. I said, here, you hold that. And if you fall asleep, you'll compromise all of us, you know? So he's sitting there with the grenade holding it. And the head instructor, Gunny Coronado, he comes up. He's like, what's going on here? Right? I'm like, if he drops that, if he falls asleep and drops that, he's going to compromise the whole team, Gunny. Right? He's like, who's got the pin? I'm like, I got the pin. He's like, give me that pin. He's like, we can't be having students do that to other students. He's like, puts the pin back in the grenade. I'm like, but Gunny. He's like, no, but Gunny, we can't have students do that to other students, you know? And he goes over to tells the instructor, he's like, you can't have them do that, man. You know, but I was like, look, I'm tired of this bullshit, you know? But no, like BRC was cool. It was awesome that we were in Coronado because they moved the school to Pendleton, but back then it was on Coronado. So like we got weekends off and we'd go into San Diego. Mm-hmm. So we'd get thrashed all week. You know, like one morning we were in the classroom like 3 a.m. and they're like, hey, someone's falling asleep. They're like, go run off the end of the dock. So right outside the classroom was a dock you could run off the end of. So we'd have to run off the end of the dock, swim to the beach, and then sugar cookie. So roll in the soft sand, right, up to freaking beach, and then go back in the classroom, right? So like, you know what that's like at like 3:30 in the morning being like in San Diego Bay, like in October, it's like 50. Freezing. I mean, it's always like cold anyway. Yeah. Right, so I was freezing cold. Then you're in there, it's hot, muggy, just it's disgusting.
Sand everywhere.
Yeah, like other than that stuff, but like we always knew, like other than probably like one weekend we were there where we had to work, like we knew that when Friday came, like at some point in time that night, we were getting off and we were gonna go downtown and rage a little bit, right? You know, so there's that.
The reward.
Like, yeah. Dudes who went to school, to amphibious reconnaissance school, ARS on the East Coast, like they would get like 5 or 6 hours like on a Saturday. But then they had to be back to the compound, you know, like they didn't get a whole weekend off like we did. So, but yeah, so definitely learned a whole bunch of stuff there. And just, you know, starting getting that outside the box, like thinking. And then coming back from that, like I ended up being a team leader at Recon Battalion right away. So, and then all the dudes from my class and the ARS class behind me, a lot of the NCOs were all team leaders right out of the gate. So that's like, you know, we were fresh, new guys who didn't really know, like we knew basic infantry stuff and all that. And some, you know, what we're taught at BRC or talking to guys, you know, but like, it was really like figure things out, like trial and error for us, like when we got back to the battalion.
Let's take a quick break and then we'll jump into that 09 deployment and kind of start going into that.